Hello everybody, my name is Brady and I'm a 19th century American historian and we are back with another React video. And today we're going to be checking out more Hamilton. We're doing the second cabinet battle, which should be fun. But before we get started, I want to give a shout out to the newest channel member. Thank you to Zadis. Guys, if I'm mispronouncing any of your names, make sure you correct me in the comment section below. I want to get your names right, but I almost never do. So if I'm saying that wrong, Zadis, please let me know. If you could spell it phonetically in the comment section below, just anything to help me, because I really do want to get your names right. If you're contributing to this channel, I feel like I at least owe you that. All right. So thank you. And if any of you want to become a channel member, there's a link to do so in the description box below. Now let's get into the video. All right, so we are gearing up for cabinet battle number 2, which should be a lot of fun. I think the cabinet battles are where a lot of the history tends to shine. The third one is interesting. That one's not really canon, but I did do a video on that one a while ago. But the first one, it was surprisingly good with how it was able to condense such complicated economic issues into like a really short song. Most of the other ones, I have plenty of historical corrections to give. I was really impressed with that one, so I'm very excited to do this one. This should be a whole lot of fun. Let's get this started. Let's not wait any longer.
The issue on the table. France is on the verge of war with England. Now, do we provide aid and troops to our French allies, or do we stay out of it? Remember, my decision on this matter is not subject to congressional approval. The only person you have to convince is me.
I should emphasize this. I don't know if I've brought this up in any previous one. This implies that James Madison was a member of the cabinet, which he wasn't. This whole musical implies that he was a member of the cabinet. He's hanging around with them as if he is, but he's not. I think he's kind of a stand-in because you don't really have all of the political figures that surrounded them. A lot of people ended up being left out because it's limited. It's a musical. You can only have such a big cast. But yeah, I think that is definitely worth pointing out. But one thing important, he was kind of in Washington's ear at times. Leading up to the adoption of the Constitution, one of the people who was really trying to urge Washington to step up and put his support behind that was James Madison, among Hamilton and the other Federalists at the time, and he was a Federalist, like Hamilton. They ended up going their separate ways, but that's a much bigger discussion.
Secretary Jefferson, you have the floor, sir.
When we were on death's door, when we were needy, we made a promise. We signed a treaty. We needed money and guns and half a chance. Who provided those funds? France.
So Hamilton is kind of on the pro-British side, and Jefferson is on the pro-France side. This is interesting because Jefferson's attachment to France is definitely a lot more emotional. He spent a lot of his life in France. Some people feel like he was more pro-France than he was pro-America. I think that's very wrong. I think he loved Virginia more than anywhere in the world, but he had a soft spot in his heart for France. Hamilton, he looks at the British economic system, and he wants to adopt as much British influence as possible, which is a little weird because we just broke off from the British, so like, what are we doing? But he recognized that that was one of the best economic systems in the world at the time, so he wanted to take the positive elements and incorporate it here. In this case, we're talking about military, though. France definitely won America the war. That is without a doubt. I don't think anybody is arguing that America could have won without France. If they were to win without France, that you'd have to substitute in one, probably multiple allies in order to equal the power that France gave the Americans. But I don't think it would ever be enough. I really think it couldn't have been done without France. However, if you're not familiar with France and its history during this time, they're about to go into a period known as the Terror. Not yet, it's about to happen, but they are in the French Revolution, which is kind of a crazy time. They've just killed the king earlier this year, like earlier in the year where Washington declares American neutrality, they killed Louis the 16th. That's kind of crazy. So we're kind of in this situation where France is kind of killing itself from the inside, and America is like, do we still want to support them? And the bigger thing is that the United States is fragile. It's a new nation, and it doesn't want to get into a big military conflict either. So America has all the reasons to not get involved in this. Although they have a treaty, they have all the reasons to pull out because this treaty is becoming unsustainable. And pulling them into a conflict that would be detrimental to the United States' mere existence, I think that's reason enough to step away from the treaty.
In return, they didn't ask for land. Only a promise that we'd lend a hand and stand with them if they fought against oppressors. And revolution is messy, but now is the time to stand. Stand with our brothers as they fight against tyranny. I know that Alexander Hamilton is here, and he would rather not have this debate. I'll remind you that he is not Secretary of State.
Ooh, that's interesting here, because the Secretary of State, theoretically, it's supposed to be the highest position in the cabinet. Hamilton was weird, though. He was really good at this. And he, for a short time, made the Treasury Department the most powerful position in the cabinet. It's kind of amazing how that stuff goes. Sometimes it's the VP that has the most influence. Sometimes it's the Treasury Department. And it usually goes back and forth between those two. In this rare case, the Treasury Department was the most powerful. And that's because everybody's trying to figure out what their positions mean, what they're supposed to do. And Hamilton just happened to take a lot of initiative early on. So the fact that he would be influential in this debate isn't at all surprising, considering that he has brought the most to the table, it seems.
He knows nothing of loyalty. Smells like new money, dresses like fake royalty. Desperate to rise above his station. Everything he does betrays the ideals of our nation.
I love the portrayal of Jefferson here because he kind of plays two sides here. He's like, smells like new money, dresses like fake royalty. That's the aristocratic side of Jefferson, because these planters in Virginia that own these huge plantations, they lived a lot like they're America's own version of aristocrats. These very well-off, better than you sorts of people. But also, a lot of his rhetoric leans towards democracy, which is really interesting, because it's like he's playing both sides here. And that's kind of something in Jefferson's mind that never truly seemed to make sense. He was always living like an aristocrat, but speaking like a down-to-earth sort of ordinary dude. In theory, Hamilton and Jefferson's positions feel like they're switched. Hamilton is like, he's all for the elite making decisions. He doesn't really like democracy that much. He doesn't like ordinary people. He doesn't trust them. So yeah, it's kind of weird considering where they come from and where their positions end up being. In theory, Jefferson would make a fantastic Federalist.
Hey, and if you don't know, now you know, Mr. President.
Thank you, Secretary Jefferson. Secretary Hamilton, your response. Come on, you must be out of your goddamn mind if you think the president is gonna bring the nation to the brink of meddling in the middle of a military mess, a game of chess where France is queen and kingless.
The fact that the monarchy has been taken down, it's the perfect excuse to pull out at this point. I really like how Hamilton's actually coming into this too, because he was known for being able to get pretty fired up in debate, and at this point in the show, you already recognize that. Let me go back for just a second.
Your goddamn mind if you think the president is gonna bring the nation to the brink of meddling in the middle of a military mess, a game of chess where France is queen and kingless.
So yeah, getting in between the British and the French would be disastrous, but the fact is this is going to come with its own consequences as well, because Being neutral is something that these powers are not going to take too kindly to. We're going to get in conflicts with both of them pretty soon. In the grand scheme of time, back to back. We have something called the Quasi-War that we're going to get into with France. There's all sorts of naval shenanigans going on, a lot of American ships being attacked, and later on we'll have like the British that are going to be impressing, which basically they're going to be kidnapping American sailors and forcing them to join the British Navy under like the pretense that there are runaway soldiers who are working on American ships, which there definitely were some, but there was also a decent amount of Americans that were probably taken in wrongly. So that's going to cause in great part the War of 1812. So neutrality was hard to maintain, but it was something they kind of had to do because the country still hasn't found its legs yet. It's still brand new. And if you want to get into a big military conflict, that's a great way to lose a lot of this new land that you've found, especially if you lose big time, which you very well might. You couldn't beat the British on your own. Who knows if you can do it? Who knows if you could do it again? You might have just gotten lucky the first time. Let's stay back. Maybe build our military a little bit. Get a navy. We barely have a navy. John Adams is going to be very proud when he makes a more significant naval presence pretty soon.
Signed a treaty with a king whose head is now in a basket. Would you like to take it out and ask it?
You got the guillotine.
Do whatever you want. I'm super dead. Enough. Hamilton was right.
Mr. President.
It's too fragile to start another fight.
But, sir, do we not fight for freedom?
Sure, when the French figure out who's gonna lead them.
The people are leading.
The people are rioting. There's a difference. Frankly, it's a little disquieting. You would let your ideals blind you to reality. Hamilton, sir, draft a statement of neutrality.
Ooh, yeah. And Washington, I think it was the right call. Though it's going to be a lot of trouble for years to come. They were going to eventually get into conflicts with the European powers eventually. Just the scale was a little lower. You're able to build the country a little better. And by the time we got to the War of 1812, which we lost. Let's be real. We lost the War of 1812. Best case scenario, we can call it like a tie, but I personally don't look at it that way. Yeah, we lost that. But the fact that we were able to do as well as we did kind of says a lot about the progress that we were able to make in between this point and the War of 1812's beginning.
Did you forget Lafayette?
What?
Have you an ounce of regret? You accumulate debt, you accumulate power, yet in their hour of need you forget.
Lafayette's a smart man. He'll be fine. And before he was your friend, he was mine. If we try to fight in every revolution in the world, we never stop. Where do we draw the line?
Invoking Lafayette is interesting. When Jefferson was over in France, he and Lafayette worked together on something called the Declaration of the Rights of Man, which was this very important revolutionary document for the French people. And it's very interesting that Jefferson had his fingers in that. I think that's a really cool thing, and the fact that they do have this shared relationship, it's very interesting. And Jefferson, he was down with most revolutions. Like when revolutions were happening, he liked the idea just instinctively, unless you were black. He was not a fan of the Haitian Revolution. Isn't that funny? Isn't that funny? Why are you... Here's the reality. He was afraid of slave uprising, so the idea of a black revolution, that was scary to him. But generally, he had his hands in all of this. So he and Lafayette were working very closely together, leading up to the French Revolution, or as the French Revolution started to take off, really.
So quick-witted.
Alas, yeah. I admit it.
I bet you were quite a lawyer.
My defendants got acquitted.
Yeah.
He was all right.
Well, someone ought to remind you.
What?
You're nothing without Washington behind you.
Hamilton.
Daddy's calling.
Oh, is there more? You're nothing without Washington behind you. Is that true? Very possible. When you talk about Alexander Hamilton's career, he was not the type of person to rely on popular opinion. He wasn't really, he didn't really get ahead by being elected very often. His biggest positions were appointments. He was appointed aide-de-camp. That he was chosen as aide-de-camp. Nobody voted him in. Washington chose that. He was made the Secretary of Treasury. That's an appointment. You're not elected to that. When the Adams administration comes around, Washington is going to lobby heavily for Hamilton to be a major general, which he's going to get for a period. And that's also not an elected position. So Washington really gave Hamilton his most powerful positions. And once Washington's out of the position, and eventually he ends up getting ousted during the Adams administration, there really wasn't that much left for him. He lost so much of his influence at that point. It didn't seem like there was any coming back for him. A lot of people are of the belief, no, Hamilton worked really hard. He can do anything. I don't think he could have come back after that. I think that was it for him. Like, he starts a newspaper and starts trying to talk some crap about the Jefferson administration, but he's not really able to make that much of a difference. So I think Hamilton, yeah, his career is tied to Washington. When Washington's gone, Hamilton's star just begins to fade. And that's what it is. And who knows what would have happened if he lived longer. It's impossible to say for sure. I really like this one. There's a lot of thoughts that this one brought up. This was like a 2.5 minute video, and I just made way too much out of it. I'm sorry. I love to go on about this stuff. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm very excited about getting to the end of this. I'm very excited to start talking about more dueling. Once we get to the end, I really am excited to talk about the duel. You know, the one. That I have a lot of thoughts about, so maybe I should start cranking these out a little more often. But I kind of like them being rare. It's kind of like a fun thing to do every once in a while. Oh, hey, buddy. You falling asleep? He's tired. All right. He's tired. I'm tired. I think it's time to wrap the video up. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you guys in the next video. If you have any videos you want me to check out, leave them in the comment section below. And, yeah. Become a channel member, damn it. And I'll see you guys next time.